Welcome to 2026. It's early January and the messaging is absolutely everywhere. Everybody's talking about having a fresh start, resetting, clean slates, new versions of themselves. Yet many people don't feel renewed at all. Many feel tired, many feel heavy, many feel that they're already behind. What most people don't realize is that this isn't a motivation problem. This is a nervous system one. Now, I'm always talking about trauma. And trauma is still commonly framed as a mindset issue, something you should be able to think your way through if you just had more insight, more discipline, or the right mental attitude. That framing completely misses the mechanism entirely. Trauma is an injury. Now, more specifically, trauma is a nervous system injury, and one that results in a heightened sympathetic nervous system arousal and a threat response. Now, nervous system injuries don't resolve through insight alone. They resolve through correct neurological intervention. So just imagine that you had some misfortune where you maybe broke an arm bone or a leg bone in mid-December. No one would expect positive thinking to repair it by January 1st. Trauma follows the same logic, except trauma heals through nervous system updating, not the passage of time. Your nervous system doesn't care a bit about social timelines, and January 1st is a social timeline, but it does respond quickly to the right inputs. And one of the reasons trauma healing has been misunderstood for so long is that we relied on the wrong metaphors. Healing isn't always a slow, linear process, like waiting for a tree to mature over years. A much more accurate metaphor is that healing is a system reboot. Now, from the outside, change can look subtle, sometimes even anticlimactic. Internally, though, inside you and inside me, the system can reorganize rapidly. Threat responses decouple, signals update, patterns that once ran automatically and ostensibly out of control simply stop firing. This is exactly what we see when interventions engage the nervous system directly, especially when they work through visual spatial processing and memory reconsolidations and bottom-up regulation rather than relying on verbal insight alone. When the correct neural circuits are accessed, healing doesn't need to be dramatic or prolonged. It can be efficient, it can be quiet, it can be absolutely complete. January 1st is a social marker. Your nervous system doesn't recognize it, but it can recalibrate rapidly when safety and regulation are encoded at the neural level. This is where much of the frustration comes from. You can want change deeply and still struggle to sustain it. Not because change is hard so much, but because the right regulatory pathway hasn't been accessed yet. Motivation isn't the issue. Capacity usually isn't either. The issue is an effective intervention that changes your response. Trauma disrupts access to regulation, not your desire. So people keep pushing effort into the wrong channel. More discipline, more pressure, more routines. And the nervous system responds by protecting itself. Urgency may actually feel unsafe. Comparison to others scrambles signals. Self-judgment increases the noise. And even when the goals are stated in the positive, pressure can trigger fight, flight, or freeze. And here's the contrarian truth most people miss or don't want to hear. Sometimes the reason change isn't happening is because the nervous system is correctly rejecting an inefficient or inappropriate approach. What modern trauma neuroscience makes absolutely clear is this: healing does not require intensity, it requires precision. The nervous system responds to targeted signals of safety and regulation, and it does so often quickly, sometimes immediately, especially when the interventions bypass excessive verbal processing and engage visual, spatial, and somatic networks. Big lifestyle overhauls can look productive, but they're often unnecessary. When the right intervention is applied, the system reorganizes without exhaustion or prolonged effort and exposure. Healing doesn't have to be drawn out over months. That is a massive myth. And it certainly doesn't have to hurt. You don't cry yourself to healing. You don't think your way out of the trauma. And you don't grind your way out either. You interrupt and update and reboot the system. There's an absolute order to change, but that order doesn't require months or years. Safety comes first, followed by system regulation, and then integration. Growth follows naturally, not as something you force, but as something that emerges once the system is aligned. Now, most self-improvement culture fails, not because the people lack discipline, because it applies action and effort before neural alignment. Healing actually starts by engaging the nervous system at a level where the trauma is stored, not by managing the systems or teaching coping techniques or endless revisiting stories. In practice, this often looks surprisingly simple. A brief, precise, non-re-traumatizing intervention instead of a long cognitive process. A targeted visual spatial shift instead of constant cognitive engagement. One clean signal instead of endless repetition. Small inputs, small adjustments can create outsized change when they are neurologically accurate. After years of working with trauma survivors and clinicians and nervous systems that are under real strain, one pattern shows up again and again. When the right mechanism is engaged, healing doesn't need to take a long time, and it doesn't need to be intrusive, re-traumatizing. So if the beginning of this year, 2026, feels off to you, please, please, please remember this. This isn't about failing. This is about your system needs a realignment. And your system doesn't need more effort. It needs the right signal and the right intervention. Please, as you enter 2026, heal first, let the transformation follow.